Hi, I am Alexa Tralla, and we are hosting a series for Celebrate 2026 where we want to highlight stories from our class and hear a little bit more about where you've been and where you're going and what you've learned along the way. I am currently a Executive MBA 2026 student. I'm on class council as the VP of admissions, and I work in biotech in San Diego. And I am very excited to have our first podcast of the series. And I'm here with my friend, classmate, and someone that I very much admire, Vic Hill. There's a lot that I want to say about you. So I'm going to give a little introduction to kind of set the stage. But Vic is the founder and managing partner of the 83K Group. You specialize in identifying and executing acquisition opportunities that drive sustainable growth for small to medium-sized businesses. You have a proven track record in capital raising, strategic operations, and leadership, and connecting investor and business owners to build on strong foundations, unlocking new levels of success. Your entrepreneurial journey, incredible, has begun with scaling venture, where you led cross-functional teams, secured venture capital, and established partnerships with Fortune 500 companies across tech, finance, and defense. Beyond entrepreneurship, your experiences include managing defense-focused multi-million-dollar acquisition portfolios, achieving targeted investment returns in real estate partnerships, and you've served as an Army intelligence officer and commander. So you've leveraged experience across consulting, venture-backed startups, and national defense portfolio management. And it's clear you have a mission to empower business owners through thoughtful succession and deliver these meaningful returns to investors. So a true growth-minded leader. And I'm just so glad that I get to showcase your story today. So
I am happy to be here. I appreciate the introduction too. Yeah. Sometimes I forget about stuff that happens along the way. Yeah, so no, I appreciate it.
Well, I was thinking maybe we could start with, what brought you to the MBA program. I know it took a little bit of time to actually commit to it. And so I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, not for lack of trying. It was maybe a timing thing. So for me, quite frankly, I tried just after undergrad, and I was in financial consulting at the time, but I didn't do so great in undergrad. So the options were limited. Wanted to stay local. I'm an LA kid. So tried, got denied, and then ended up joining the Army not so long after. Into that journey, reapplied after getting some more experience and further away from my undergrad grades. Got into USC Marshall. I know we have the UCLA backdrop here, but got into Marshall. But then I got deployed. At the same time, I had gotten my first offer to Quantico for the FBI to become a special agent. Decided to go the deployment route because that was the tax-free route. So, and I had a young daughter at the time, so income was top of mind. Came back, I was able to delay, but then got into Pepperdine. And I was like, okay, small school. I did undergrad at LMU. I'm familiar with the small, framing. But when I got back from my deployment, they put me in command. I was selected for command, and I was like, well, I can't do both because that's just too taxing. And then my last hurrah after a couple of years of that was, okay, I've heard about UCLA's program. A buddy of mine went through it, the EMBA program. Let me try it. So it was my last and final application, and then got in. And when I got the call, I was actually driving after dropping my daughter off at school, and I think I had to pull over because I was in tears. I was like, oh, finally, I'm gonna do it. It's gonna happen. And yeah, and then I met you guys. So
best part.
Yeah, the best part. I met some amazing people. So.
What was it that was always in the back of your mind, kind of bringing you back to coming to a program like this?
I think for me, it was trying to figure out how I can kind of not pad my resume, but I always wanted to raise the lowest bar that I had available to me. So for me, it was like, okay, if I get my MBA, that means that the lowest tier for me has improved significantly. If I prove myself as a commander in the Army, that means the lowest tier of opportunities drastically raises as well. And another part was like, I was at a point where I needed to change the people around me. And having done undergrad at Loyola Marymount, having grown up in LA and Compton and Inglewood and high school in Torrance, like I wanted to change who I frequented, I guess you could say, who I was grabbing drinks with, and that's no slight to anyone I grew up with, but I have an end state in mind, and I knew that I needed to take action to change it. So, and it worked.
Was there something specific about the UCLA program that spoke to you?
Initially, so there's a few things, like it being local, it being one of the largest and oldest EMBA programs. And I think it was, they also had a like brand new capstone that was ETA, which I kind of found out as I was doing my application. And that really stuck out to me because I was trying to figure out, like, okay, I have this tech startup, I have this background experience, and what's next? And so that kind of stuck out as a potential what's next for me.
Maybe elaborate on how you're reviewing the ETA in terms of what you wanted to do.
Yeah, so ETA, entrepreneurship through acquisition. I was, at the time I was had a tech startup, had some backing behind us, hit some, like, I guess you could say bureaucratic red tape. And so knew that I had to start winding it down. My cousin-in-law, who was also my legal counsel for my startup, switched to buy-side M&A out east. And he was like, Vic, I really think you should look into this small business, lower middle market acquisition space. I think you'd be great. I was like, okay, let me check it out. And finding out about the capstone was around the same time I found out about ETA. So it all kind of like, merged at once. This was January 24. And I just kind of dove in. And I was like, okay, what's UCLA offering? Oh, there's a conference. It was their first conference, I think it was. So just all kind of laid a path for me to start to dive deep into what it is and what it means for me. Like, is this a viable path? Can I do it? So,
did you think that you would be at this point of acquisitions, when you started kind of your entrepreneurship pivot, maybe tell a little bit more about, how you've gotten to where you are. Yeah, you've had some pretty big milestones during this program. Yeah. Maybe share a little bit about that and the reflection on that.
So since the start of the program, had the assumption that I wanted to jump into ETA, obviously, and then as I started to explore more, I think January of 25, I was like, okay, let's try it. Worst that could happen is I end up where I started. And for me, like, that's not a bad
So trade-off. This is like the middle of the program.
About the middle of the program. So we started August 24.
So you kind of had an idea coming into the program. Yeah. And then did the program help it become more real?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So I don't know about stats. That was tough, but I do,
right out the gates too.
Yeah, that was that came in like a wrecking ball, but that was like a gut punch. But yes, I think all the classes that we've taken has had like a little insertion of, what I needed to lean on to make my first acquisition. So January 25, I'm like, okay, let me start looking for a business to buy. And that was after almost a year of kind of, diving into podcasts and books and articles and grabbing coffees with people who I met off of podcasts. And I just cold reached out to them, like, why not? Worst that could happen is they say no. And
were you taking the approach of, hey, I'm a student getting my MBA and I'm curious, or no, hey, I actually want to do this with my business?
I think there's two ways. I think we get told to approach it as an inquisitive student. I think my LinkedIn kind of speaks for itself that if you do a little bit of diligence, you'll find out I'm in school, but you also find out that I'm doing stuff. And so my approach was just like, hey, I love your story. I take me out of it, I guess I could say. My approach was always like, hey, I listened to your story. It kind of aligns with my approach. Would love to talk to you more about it. And my hit rate was 90%. So
amazing.
It worked out, and it helped me kind of expedite how quickly I learned about what it is I wanted to do, what industries I wanted to approach, and how it related to me, and talk to my wife about it, everything. So a little harder to talk to family about it because they're like, buy a business, and what is that? I was like, oh, it's the same as buying a house. It's just slightly different. So January I started looking, and then May I got a letter of intent signed, and then by the last day of September we closed, and been running it ever since. Yeah.
So this is September 2025.
September 2025. Yeah.
So you said there were kind of little, nudges along the way in school that helped, that January point time frame. Mm-hmm. What were some of the light bulb moments that, maybe come to mind in this period?
I mean, Professor Ullman's class was, I guess for the whole program, right? If you submit yourself to it, while at the same time putting your own effort and energy into it, you get out of it like 10x what you put in. So, and Professor Ullman is a class that you kind of have to submit to and kind of be at the will of, his mind and allow your mind to go with it. And so there was like an introspective process through his class that kind of helped, okay, like, where do I want to end up? And why do I even want to end up there? And what vehicle? Because I look at business acquisition, startups, consulting, or regular jobs as they're just different asset classes, and any one of those things can get you to the place you want to be. It's just you're just in a different vehicle. So I chose this vehicle. Someone else could choose the same. We can end up at the same place. So Ullman's class, I think, was a period in which I had to do that introspective, like, okay, is this really? Yeah, I think so. Let's go with it. And coming from the military, like, no plan survives first contact. So it's kind of just, you have to make a plan and go, iterate along the way. It's the same in startups, and it's the same for this. So.
Yeah, I always tell people there's kind of 3 approaches to classes. You can enhance a skill, you can learn a new skill, or there's this introspective learning. Yeah. And Ullman always comes up in this, you got to dig deep as to what's driving me. And then, it's incredible that it happened during that time period. I made a job change too during one of his classes, and I don't think the outcomes would have been the same without that class. So
even back to Foundations Week, like was it Matt Gorlick?
Yes.
Ask why again. You're like, all right, I have to ask you why again. And you actually, it's playful, but at the same time, it does make you think on like why you're even doing something.
Yeah.
And for me, like having a daughter so young at 20, 21, raising her, every decision mattered. So, and this does too. Like she's 14 now, but like this decision mattered for my wife and my family. So a lot of thought should go behind it, but there's also a certain level of risk, and I'm a risk taker and an adrenaline junkie. Yeah, so it's like, all right, like
saddle up.
Yeah, like strap in. Yeah. Like we're going down the mountain. Let's go. So, and it, sometimes it works out. Sometimes you have to make it work out, and sometimes it doesn't.
And what an amazing example for your daughter. I also wanted to elaborate on that. These programs are it's a huge time commitment. It's a challenge, and you go through kind of waves throughout the program, balancing a family, balancing an acquisition. What have been the challenges in the program, and how have you been able to manage, this kind of time constraint?
I think for me, it was not as difficult, only because it came just after I was a commander in the Army, in the National Guard out of Long Beach.
Puts it into perspective.
Yeah, and so late nights, early mornings, I sometimes would have to be on tarmacs at 5 a.m., or up north at, leave at the crack of dawn. And so this was actually better than that, still demanding, still having to miss certain family events or show up late or be up late or whatever it might be, miss family dinner. But ultimately, if you have a family, if you have a supporting cast, you guys are all signing up. And so I couldn't have even gotten to this point without my wife being involved, without my daughter tiptoeing around the refrigerator while I'm in class. Her texting me, "Can I slide by and grab some food?"
While you're on Zoom.
Yeah,
meetings.
while I'm on a Zoom call. I'm yeah, no problem. So you all kind of sign up for it. And, my in-laws are super supportive because they're local now. So I don't think, it was hard. It was for sure hard. Can't wait till the summertime.
Yeah.
Get some of that time back. But what they also recognize is the people who I have around me now, after having gone through the program, have changed the trajectory of my life. And it doesn't have to be financial, but just as I'm on the phone with this new friend, and I can talk to this person about this thing, whereas before it was more internalized. Yep. Or I was bothering my wife with it. And she was like, "Dude, find a friend who you can talk to about this.
Where's your outlet?"
Yeah, and I was like, "Okay, let me go do this MBA program and find a friend."
Well, and on that, what have been the non-negotiables, for you during this program? What were you not going to give up no matter what with the time constraints of the program? So
I thought it was golf, but second year, that thing went out the window. I did it for the first year, and then second year has been maybe. I think it's putting myself first every day. So my wife and I, for the first 2 hours in the morning, it's only stuff for ourselves. So she'll be out at 5 in the morning, hit the gym. I'll do my gym stuff. Daughter has her alarm now, which is great. Making that transition from a parent having to walk in and wake your kid up to them getting up and doing their thing. That's been great. So I haven't given up my mornings. I think the hardest part hasn't been school, it's been the running of the business and trying to make sure I don't fall into my schedule as it was as a military commander. Mm-hmm. Because that was just all hours all the time, and you have to be on. But this is well, do I have to get back to this email I got at 6 a.m. or can I do it at 9? Yeah, we save our mornings, and I do not give that up for anybody.
That's important. Maybe transitioning into, what are your takeaways, biggest lesson learned, and, how have you changed over the last 2 years?
I don't know. I feel like I joined this program for the people. Not all 150 of our classmates, but if I can leave this program with a solid 20 to 30 people who I know, I trust, I can work with, I can rely on, that to me is massively valuable. And I guess the lesson that I had to teach myself or realize is that it's hard to figure that out, who your tribe is and who you can rely on, and you do have to vet people because you don't know who's who in the zoo all the time. And statistically speaking, you're not going to get along with everybody, you're not going to vibe with everybody, and you have to be pretty discerning because it is your life, your family.
Lessons learned or anything that changed you?
Oh, I think it's back to the people. And then I did coaching, the executive coaching the first year, and I don't know if you remember, but I did not wear my earrings the whole, like, for the first August to December. And I was having a conversation with her, and she was like, well, why are you bringing this up? I was like, I don't know. Somehow I don't feel like myself, or I'm not stepping into who I'm supposed to be. I'm kind of like trying to fit this mold that is kind of not entirely me. So her question to me was, well, you have tattoos, right? I'm like, yeah. She's like, do you only wear long sleeve and hide them? And I was like, no. She's like, do people say anything? Like, compliments. She was like, do you think there's a difference? And I was like, okay, I'll start wearing my earrings again. And it was like, I hadn't done it in like 10 years, like after being in the Army and stuff. But I look back at a lot of my old photos and like award ceremonies and speeches, and I have them in, and I'm like fully myself. I'm smiling the biggest I smile, like, and it seems small, but I think that also is like a testament to the program on challenging you to step into it. Like, what exactly do you have to lose when you're becoming the best version of yourself? And so now, like, I think there's a classmate of ours, Diamante, like January 25, and it was like our first meeting back. It was after the fires and everything. We got to see each other. And he was like, what's up with you? And I was like, you know what, man, this year, let's just go. I'm just going for it. It was like, I'm taking advantage of everything. I'm just going to do it. And that's been it the whole time.
There's something so powerful in stepping into your truest, authentic self and being in an environment that is, you know, a platform for that. Through this.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, you gotta submit.
Yep.
You gotta submit. So.
Okay. So what's next? We're coming to the end of this program.
My goal is to buy 9 more companies, raise a committed capital fund. First one is $30 million. And so we can execute on that. Some of the people who I've met in this program, I'm looking forward to working with on that. And I don't know if I would have thought as big if it weren't for the program. I already think, like, ask my wife. Very pie in the sky, very like, you know, visionary, like, man, what if?
She's keeping you grounded over there.
She keeps me grounded. Operations at home are solid. Like, we team up on it. But I'm the one who's like, hey, you know what? Let's go buy this multifamily property. She's like, what? No. Like, okay. And so, yeah, so that, for me, that's what's next. It's obviously finishing our capstone, which is a lot of time, a lot of work. And then jumping into being an emerging fund manager and creating a new flavor of company that I think will withstand the test of time.
And you should share your mentorship work that you're also kind of taking forward into the...
Yeah, I guess, yeah, I am mentoring certain students on like acquiring companies.
Yeah.
Some peers. I'm helping kind of evaluate their journey similar to mine, like figuring out like, what is this North Star for me? Like, what am I doing next? So some folks at Melbourne Business School where I went through the program, and then some students. One student just got under LOI for a company that he might buy. And I'm like, just go. I was challenged to search for a company to buy during the program. And I pass that challenge on to other people too, because I mean, it's the same as having a job during the program, and you can do it, and it's life-changing. So, yeah.
Well, I could easily keep asking you questions for another 2 hours, but I did want to end with a rapid-fire question round. If you're good with that?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite professor?
Ooh. I would say, can I say 2?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. For different reasons. I'd say Kent Weaver, Search Fund class, and Professor Ullman. Very different. Kent Weaver's class, he actually brought in we had to do case studies, and he actually brought in the people who the case studies were about. And that was one of the only classes I ever experienced that where we can see what happened with their companies. And then Professor Ullman, like I said earlier, like he will challenge you to really think about what it is you want and what you're going to get out of life. So,
which class was the most impactful? You kind of said.
Yeah,
I think we got that. What class was it?
It was, oh my gosh.
5 stories?
No, it was like
personal communication.
Leadership.
Okay.
I think it was leadership. Yeah.
Okay. Favorite book or favorite recent podcast you've listened to?
Book. I always recommend The Big Five for Life. And I think it's by John Strzelecki. I don't know. The story is from a business leader, CEO, who also helps employees who may be best at running their own company. He helps their employees start a company, and everybody wins. So I'm all for mutual benefit. And there's one thing that sticks out in the book where it's, if there was a museum made at the end of your life about your life, would it be 80% of you just working in a job that you didn't like, and then 20% of you actually being you? Or would it be the opposite? And so
super interesting.
That's kind of driven me to make it the opposite.
It kind of breaks down the construct that we live in typically. Interesting. Okay, favorite hangout with classmates?
That's tough because I've also hung out, I did 3 international trips. So hung out with classmates in Bogota, Medellin, Colombia, which is hard to...
That's hard to top.
But then I went to Australia. I went to Melbourne and Cairns and Sydney. Had a great time with like classmates there, and then we just got back from Thailand in December from Bangkok, and I don't know if I can answer that.
Yeah, that's
because those trips,
you did, and that was great.
It's hard to beat that level of connection and like. Yeah, you remember that time we were on that rooftop bar in Bangkok just chatting about what we're going to do next?
Yep.
Like, yeah, so.
Okay, 2 more. Greatest tool that you gained from the program that's in your toolbox?
Wow. Our finance class. I think the storytelling through numbers. Even the way the professor taught the class, I think it was corporate finance. Yeah. It was my first time being able to understand storytelling through numbers, through P&Ls, through all that stuff. Like, that was my first time actually experiencing that and understanding like, oh, maybe that's why I couldn't raise my seed round of funding for my startup back in the day. I wasn't telling a story. And so now I kind of apply that to everything with this acquisition and subsequent acquisitions. And so that's been that's been a game changing for me.
Yeah, shout out to Professor Wessels, who made us all consultants in the room.
Yeah. That was also a very unique way.
Yeah.
And I thought it was great.
I agreed.
Challenging, but great.
Okay, last one. What's your most frequent use of AI?
Well, my startup was in AI, and it was a challenge. And so coming here, I kind of retreated from it because I had like scar tissue from tech and AI, and I was like, oh man. And then coming here, like that was all the rage. I was like, oh man. So now I actually use Claude, and I pay whatever the highest tier is. My whole team has Claude now at the company I bought. It's in the Excel add-on as well that I have. And so training projects and using Claude Cowork and all that stuff, I think has been game changing. I've probably saved at least $10,000-$15,000 so far just because of how I'm able to use it and train it. And so like not pitch decks, but like different decks that I've had to do for the new company. like it's been crushing all that, whereas I used to have to pay for a lot of that stuff out of pocket. So yeah, it's, you know, it's also controversial, but it's also a very big optimizer for operations.
Yeah, and would you have advocated for that for your whole team without the program and the exposure here?
I don't think so. No, I think it did. It constantly being mentioned here, like I think it was like, okay, let me take a look more.
Yeah, it's pretty hard not to embrace it.
Yeah.
I've never been an early tech adopter, but I am now because of the program. So
yeah. I'm like, oh, there's a new one.
Yeah.
Look at that. I'm like, here I am, pumping my pom poms about AI.
Those pom-poms.
Exactly.
Well, on that note, the last thing is we wanted to ask you to give this out as a bear hug to someone or someone's.
Yeah.
So,
let me see. I would have to give this to a few folks. Kelly S. Latter, John Reed, Sohambot, Diamante and JG, Diamante Estelero and Joe Greenway. Yeah, those folks have like been a massive sounding board. Ariel Franco, yourself, Aline Mardelli, Aaron. There's like a group of like 15 I can mention who have been just amazing people. Like no matter you can be unemployed, you can be C-level, you can be some great CEO, it doesn't matter, but people-wise, like they've been pretty excellent. And so if you were here, I'd bear hug you. Last but not least, obviously not least, because I'm going to see her later, is, two. My daughter, Sarai, and my wife, Hannah, because would not be able to get through this among a million other things without them. So
that supporting cast is key.
Absolutely. Neither of which are Bruins, but Sarai might be. I don't know.
Well,
so, yeah.
Thank you so much. It's been so fun, and I'm so grateful that I get to have this conversation with you and that I've gotten to get to know you through the program.
Yeah, absolutely. I love being here and appreciate everything through Anderson.
It's been a ride.
I would have got 2.5 months. Yeah, so thank you. I appreciate it.